All right. Looks like we are live. Hello and welcome everybody to this wonderful opportunity where we're going to be talking about combating obesity in the Philippines using therapeutic carbohydrate restriction. And this is really exciting because we don't normally get to discuss, this area of the world when it comes to therapeutic carbohydrate restriction. We always think of the USA's, and perhaps the UK and places, like the Philippines or even like us here in South Africa. It feels like we are a little bit more fringe. So, but it turns out that there are huge followings of therapeutic carbohydrate restriction and low carbohydrate diets in the more fringe areas, such as ours. And they deserve being spoken about because those metabolic health conditions that we see throughout the globe are just as prevalent in countries that are spoken about less. So that brings us to this discussion and Nutrition Network's very exciting collaboration and affiliation with Dr. and Coach David Aguila. Is that how you pronounce your surname, Dave?
Yes. Aguila.
Aguila.
I just have to clarify something about the doctor part. I'm not a medical doctor. I just so happened that I was awarded an honoris causa, an honorary PhD degree. So some people call me
Wow.
doctor, but I prefer not to. But yeah, sure, why not?
Awesome. You're a doctor, you're just not a medical doctor.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's wonderful to have you both on this live discussion, and I'm going to be introducing you and telling everyone a little bit more about you, so that they can understand what kind of doctors you are, because you both are doctors, but perhaps not necessarily medical doctors. And then we're going to talk about why what we're discussing today is so important. Okay. So I think to get started, let me introduce myself. I'm the host today. I am Tamsin Murphy. I'm a registered dietitian with a master's degree where I focused on low carbohydrate nutrition, so I know a bit about the space. I am also from Nutrition Network, where I am the senior editorial manager, and I'm also act as a registered dietitian and a lecturer. And today, we're going to, as I said, be talking about combating obesity within the Philippines using low carbohydrate or therapeutic carbohydrate nutrition. And the objectives today are what we want to get through. We have a lot to get through today. We want to talk about health in the Philippines, firstly. Like what is health looking like in the Philippines, and why should we even be thinking about therapeutic carbohydrate restriction within this context? Then we want to look at what healthcare practitioners and the public can do to take back their health, because as I'm sure you already, and we've alluded to, health in the Philippines is no better than elsewhere around the globe. And then we are going to talk about the significance and importance of Nutrition Network and Dr. Dave's collaboration. So let me start by introducing our panelists. We have, can I call you Dr. Dave? Should I call you Dave? Should I
I
call you
prefer being called Coach, Dave.
Coach? I will call
I'm
you
more
Coach.
used to being called Coach. Thank you.
All right. So we have Coach Dave here with us, who is an entrepreneur with nearly 30 years of diverse business experience across multiple industries. He began his journey at the age of 17. He's developed a comprehensive skill set in sales, marketing, coaching, consulting, public speaking, presentations, analyses, problem solving, and clearly in the area of health and nutrition as well. He's had background in direct selling, in real estate and insurance, stocks, forex, financial planning, so many things. And Coach Dave is a renowned thought leader within the Philippines, where he's played a really pivotal role in popularizing the low carbohydrate diet and intermittent fasting, as can be seen by his largest Facebook low carb group within the Philippines, boasting over 2.2 million members, where he's fostered this community focused on wellness and healthy living. What an amazing accomplishment, Coach Dave. Very, very impressive. So we're very excited to affiliate with you and have you on this live to chat more about what you're doing and why it's important. Then we
Thank
have
you.
got Dr. Suzette Encarnado, who is a diabetologist, and she also is one of our qualified and certified nutrition network practitioners. She's a medical doctor, and she's best known for her innovative approach to managing diabetes and other metabolic diseases. She employs a low carbohydrate, high fat diet approach combined with intermittent fasting, very much like Coach Dave's approach. And this is the cornerstone of her treatment regimens. And this regimen has often achieved reversal of diabetes in her patients, and she's committed to personalized patient care as well as evidence-based dietary interventions, as are we here at Nutrition Network. So I would like to start, without any further ado, with you, Coach Dave. Um, can you start by telling us a little bit more about your community, your low carb, intermittent fasting community? What kind of people are on there, and what brings them to your Facebook page?
Well, it started back in 2018, to be specific, January 7, 2018.
Well, very specific.
So, yeah. So, would you like me to tell you the time?
Yes, yes.
No, no.
Tell us why you know that. Why?
just just joking, just joking. So that back then there was a very small we call it keto community back then here in the Philippines, about roughly around the totality of about 30 to 50,000 people or Filipinos. And then it just so happened that some of the teachings there from those Facebook groups tend to be misleading. Like for example,
Okay.
a very specific sample that I always say is they claim that ketosis and keto or ketogenic is the same, as if it's a semantics or sort. I told them no, it's not the same. It's input and output. Ketosis is an output and keto is an input, so it's not the same. Basically, the other one is in, the other one is out. Anyway, so that's how it started here in the Philippines. So there was somehow a clout, a desire here in the Philippines to learn more about keto. So, and I was doing ketogenic, a version of it, since 2016.
Oh.
So way back, even before I found out about the groups, the Facebook groups here in the Philippines, I just thought of creating my own group so that I would be able to teach my own thing, which I believe is quote unquote proper. So lo and behold, I was surprised, as many of us are surprised. I was just surprised that after 3 months, 6 months, the group became about 100, 200,000. So
Wow.
it was a surprise. So
That shows the
there,
demand, doesn't it?
yeah, it seems so. It seems so. And of course, obviously, most of them wanted to look good, to look sexier, fitter, no?
For weight loss, mainly.
Yeah, primarily speaking. Most of them did not even bother about like when I started. I just wanted to lose weight. I just wanted to be to look sexier, fitter. And back when I started LCIF, I call it LCIF here. It's a combination of low carb and intermittent fasting. I combined the two disciplines. So when I started LCIF, there was no doctor here in the Philippines who were vocal, at least, about low carb or ketogenic. All of them, or most of them, are actually discouraging discouraging us, discouraging me to do ketogenic for obvious reasons. But I ignored them, and I said, sorry for the word, fuck them. I want to lose weight. I want to become fitter. And even if I die because of this, due to heart attack and all, I want to do it. And then after 6 months, I did not die. As a matter of
Mm.
fact, all my lab results became better. So that's how it started. And then there was a clamor for it after 3 months, 6 months. After 6 months, after 6 months from January 7, 2018, I was already receiving a multitude of legal and death threats
Oh, wow.
from various sectors, doctors, dietitians, fitness trainers, vegans. So I
Mm.
was receiving legal and death threats left and right. So
Yes.
yeah, I think Filipinos back then wanted to lose weight. Now
Mm.
it's more about, can I do eat this, eat that. It's more on about food consumption now, not really
Okay.
about weight loss.
Why that change? What do you think has changed in the population? Is it just a more knowledgeable population, or has the desire for health become more important to people, do you think, than weight loss or how they
I
look?
think I think the era for low carb here in the Philippines when it comes to information, technical information, became saturated because after LCIF, after my group, almost everyone became a coach.
Mm,
Almost everyone became a coach. So everyone, regardless of their knowledge, became a coach. So basically, there were thousands of Filipinos who claim that they're an LCIF coach. So I
mm,
think people became fed up of the too much information and conflicting information because a lot of the coaches, because we are Doc Suzette and I are basically the same when it comes to LCIF. We teach more on the carnivorish
mm,
side. Because I
yeah.
remember Prof Noakes when I interviewed him before, I asked him explicitly, Prof, how much carbs do we need? Zero. He said to me, he told me zero. So I held on to that. Anyway, so lots of coaches now, and now they're more on what food do I have to eat? What food? I mean, is it tasty? Is it delicious? Something like that. They're more
Mm.
on the testing side,
Okay,
no
so
longer on the information side.
so it's now turned, we've got enough information in this era now. It's turned to practical application. So that seems to be what's driving people to your Facebook page,
Now,
and to you. Is that right?
before
Okay.
it's more on information. Now it's more
Okay.
on practical application. Yeah.
So what do you think are the most powerful things that or benefits or yeah, that you bring to your community, Coach Dave?
I think it's more on the anecdotal evidences, testimonies. It's more on the organic reach because the group never boosted its platform. I never boosted the platform. I
Mm.
never boosted. So
It was organic growth.
basically, yeah, organic growth, as in 100% organic growth. People
Mm.
are inviting others, trying to invite them, and then check out this guy, check out this page, check out this group. A lot of people are losing weight, and he's not even a doctor. So it spread like wildfire for the past 3 years before the pandemic because before pandemic we were so active, active because during the
Mm.
pandemic I had a shift of information drive. It was about COVID then, but
Yeah.
before the pandemic,
Mm.
so it was it spread like wildfire, and it's organic. It's more on try it
Yeah.
out. It's good. He's not even a doctor. Look at her, look at him. It's
Yeah.
more on like that.
Real practical information based on people and their stories. And I mean, that I think that's wonderful, and it just shows what people want. So I was wondering then, why the collaboration with us at Nutrition Network? What drew you? You have such a big Facebook page. What drew you to Nutrition Network, and what do you hope to achieve with this collaboration?
Well, first off, I was one of the first students of Nutrition Network. So I'd like to believe that I was the first coach student because back then, when I first applied, as I always tell the story, when I first applied to Nutrition Network, you were not accepting coaches.
It's true.
The first time I applied. And then a month after, I reapplied. A month after I reapplied. And then you accepted me. Some sort of conditional acceptance. Anyway, so that's the first reason. Second reason, as I always say lately, um, the LCIF community here in the Philippines became some sort of a showbiz uh, community. So
Hmm.
there are a lot of factions. There are a lot of divisions here. This one is better. This one is better. That guy is not good, etc., etc. And the funny thing is, despite the phenomenal success of LCIF, because LCIF is successful despite the phenomenal success of LCIF being the largest in the Philippines and I think in the world. From 18 million, and I highlighted this a few weeks or months ago, from 18 million obese Filipinos back in 2018 when I started LCIF, from 18 million, and despite the phenomenal success of LCIF, the obesity number became 27. Sorry. Yeah, 27. So
Wow.
18 to 27. So
But we
something like
still,
that.
despite how many people are joining the group and finding out about, LCIF, it's just not enough to curb the obesity epidemic and what's still going on in the greater community at large. So we've just got to do more.
Yes,
Um,
that's surprising actually. That's
it
surprising.
is It is, considering how many people you're reaching. And, people like, what Dr. Suzette is doing as well, and other practitioners and other coaches and us at Nutrition Networks, we're still not reaching enough people to curb
Yes.
this pandemic, even though we know that the people we do reach see benefits, right? You see
Yes.
that in your
Yes.
community. What kind of success rate are you seeing within your community, Coach Dave?
Um the success rate is massive actually. The
Mm,
success rate is massive. I just don't have the numbers, the actual numbers because I'm not a clinician.
yes.
I don't really record the number of testimonies, but the success stories are overwhelming. If you try to
Mm,
visit the page, every single day you'll be seeing a lot of transformation stories, not just weight loss, but also the we call non-scale victories. We call
yeah.
it non-scale victories. Yeah, people who do not have menstruation for 5 months, a week after doing LCIF strictly, they're already menstruating like crazy.
Mm.
So people with no child suddenly became pregnant. We often used to joke about, oh, you, Coach Dave, you have another child because someone
Yeah,
is pregnant again.
all these births now, all these
Yeah.
babies.
So there are a lot of a lot. Success is massive, massive actually.
Yeah.
It just so happened that again the community here at the moment,
Mm.
despite the success, it's not yet that united. So that's I
Yeah.
think the problem because as I told Professor Noakes before, and as I told Doc Don Agcopra, and as I told a lot of medical doctors who I respect, we cannot be apolitical. I always again in my profile I shared to you guys that I filed for presidency here in the
Mm.
Philippines. We cannot be apolitical. We cannot be apathetic when it comes to well politics. And health is a part of politics. If we
Unfortunately,
cannot yes,
I mean, I totally agree with you. I just want to say, unfortunately, I totally agree with you because that is where the dietary guidelines come from, right? That is where
exactly.
all of those recommendations that we followed, that started in the US back in, the late 70s, early 80s, and the rest of the world just followed suit, and everyone's been getting fatter and sicker ever since. That was a legislated kind of Department of Agriculture, Department of Food thing, and
Yes.
so I think
Yes.
you're so right. We have to advocate, and I think that's what's so amazing about the work you're doing, Coach Dave, is you are not sitting back. You are advocating to make people healthier, which is really amazing. Such amazing work. I just wanted to ask Dr. Suzette. I'm used to calling, I should say Dr. Encarnado, but I'm so used to calling you Suzette
Yeah.
that if you're okay, I'll continue to call you Dr. Suzette. Um, what kind of success rates are you seeing? Coach Dave said that he's not a clinician, but
Yeah.
he has all these like anecdotes that have been told on the Facebook page. What are you seeing in clinical practice when you implement keto or therapeutic carbohydrate restriction and intermittent fasting amongst your patients?
When I started online consultation for the Filipinos in the year 2020, that was the time when COVID hit. I'm achieving for the first 3 months for patients, I've been achieving around 70% of success rate for patients in reversing diabetes. Um, Unfortunately, because of food addiction, we know that. from bitten, the rate decreased onto the sixth month for some other reasons. Some patients they become complacent because when they see that their numbers are improving, they somehow changes the way they eat. They allow some carbohydrates into their diet
Concrete.
again.
Hey.
Yes. And unfortunately, because of the market in the low carb community in the Philippines, these patients, they are allowing themselves to buy some substitutes. And we have discussed that on your session. I vividly remember my paper under you that all of this anti-nutrients that we are getting from the plants, that is unfortunately hindering the progressive healing of the patients. And once the patients realizes this, they come back again, and then they start again to to recalibrate again their diet. And then once the motivation and their path is more clearer the second time around, the success rate is way more better. 80 to 90%, it's way better.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. It's funny how as humans so often have to fall off to realize, oh, okay, I better just, that way was the right way. I can't now decide, okay, I'm all better now. Let me just start eating the same way that made me sick in the first place. And then you very quickly realize that actually you gotta go back. But at least then you're motivated because you've tried, you've realized, okay, it was that was causing me to be sick. And it clearly was, Dr. Suzette's way or Coach Dave's way that was making me healthy again. And that's the kind of, that's amazing. And I just wanted to mention, you mentioned at first that you're seeing success rates at first around 70%. It's really interesting because that's a very similar number that's coming out in the literature across the board. If you see, for example, Dr. Unwin's publications about his diabetic patients, also about a 75% reversal or success rate. And we saw a similar thing in our pilot study when I was doing research for my master's degree. The pilot study to see the kind of the reversals again of diabetes. We're looking again at 75% remission rate. So I think that seems kind of 70 to 80% seems to be the golden number when it comes to diabetes remission. And clearly you can achieve higher amounts like you're talking about, if there's higher adherence and there's troubleshooting and potentially the help of an experienced and knowledgeable clinician. Because I know in my study, people had found this way by themselves, maybe on Facebook groups like, Coach Dave's Facebook group, they'd found and they had achieved a 75% remission rate. But with the help of a knowledgeable clinician, a knowledgeable coach, you can achieve much higher rates. And when I'm talking about diabetes, isn't just for all of you, most of you out there know keto, low carb, intermittent fasting, all these things that are kind of basically under the therapeutic carbohydrate restriction umbrella. They're not just for diabetes reversal. They're not just for weight loss. They're for anything that is at least related to insulin resistance. And that's where you're seeing what Coach Dave is talking about, which is this, all his babies. Because what is polycystic ovarian syndrome? Polycystic ovarian syndrome is primarily an insulin resistant condition. And it comes with anovulation. So the woman can't fall pregnant. They start eating low carb and keto. Suddenly they are fertile again because they are addressing the underlying insulin resistance. And that goes for any condition where insulin resistance is there, whether that's metabolic syndrome, whether that's high blood pressure, whether that's polycystic ovarian syndrome, diabetes, type 3 diabetes, which is Alzheimer's. And now we're seeing that insulin resistance and metabolic derangements are underlying so many more conditions than we originally thought. Cancer, neurological conditions, psychiatric conditions as well, which is where this whole metabolic psychiatry movement coined by Dr. Sethi from Stanford is coming in, where actually metabolic dysregulation underpins so many conditions. And that's where the government, as you said, Dr. Dave, has so much to answer for. Because the government is who says in the US, they say the bottom of the pyramid is primarily grains. In South Africa, we say, I think it was dietary guideline number 1, the majority of your foods must be grains and starches, basically. That's how we put it. I don't know how you put it in the Philippines, but I'm sure you have a similar recommendation.
Pretty much the
What
same.
what is
We
it
call it
say?
pinggang Pinoy.
Yeah.
Pinggang Pinoy.
Yeah. Pinggang
Yeah,
Pinoy. So
it's
Filipino
Filipino
plate.
plate.
The Filipino plates. Okay,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
see, every country might package it slightly differently, but they're saying the same thing. And, so many people, the majority of people, if you look at the literature, are carbohydrate intolerant. If we look at the National Health Survey in the US, I think it was 2016 publication that found that 88% of people in America, and as we can see by the metabolic stats elsewhere across the globe, we're all very similar. 88% of Americans are metabolically unwell. Another word for that is carbohydrate intolerant, really. So only 12% of Americans are not carbohydrate intolerant or metabolically unwell.
Not
Right?
much.
Not much. Is it the same there in the Philippines, do you think?
It's almost
Doc?
the same. I checked on the literatures upon this invitation. So
Yes.
currently in the Philippines, we are 114 million total populations. And despite the decrease in the fertility, we are still 114 million and expected to reach as high as 120 million by 2029. And sadly, on the top 10 mortality cases in the Philippines, we have the number 1, which is ischemic heart disease.
What's that?
Followed secondly, ischemic
Is
heart
that a
disease, which
metabolic
is
disease, Dr. Suzette?
yeah,
Is
it
that
is a metabolic disease. Number 1. Number 2, it's a neoplasm, which is another metabolic disease. Number 3 is cerebrovascular disease, which is another metabolic disease. Number 4, we have diabetes, which is another metabolic disease. Number 5
Bingo!
is pneumonia, which is infection. But unfortunately, metabolic disease can also be
Affects
indirectly
immunity.
related to pneumonia. So
a contributing factor, as we
factor,
all saw with
yeah,
COVID, right? Who were the people
exactly.
Yeah.
who were getting most affected? It was the
Mhm.
metabolically unwell people
Yeah,
who ended up in
More
the
on the
ICU.
immunity.
exactly.
Mm.
Number 6, we have hypertension.
Metabolic.
Number 7, chronic lower respiratory diseases, which is technically their root cause is metabolically dysfunction. So the succeeding diseases, it's all the same. So basically, if we could improve our metabolic health, we could see a decline on these numbers. Maybe after 5 years, and so on, we could see the numbers will change. But sadly, obesity is increasing in the Philippines. Diabetes is increasing in the Philippines. Uh, Hypertension is also increasing in the Philippines. Not just with the number, but with the age. People having diabetes and hypertension, they are younger as compared before. And our healthcare in the Philippines is not that good. Even though recently the government signed the
You mean
Universal
sick
Healthcare
sick
Act,
care?
the sick care. 2019, our president signed the Universal Healthcare Act to ensure that the Filipinos is guaranteed for equitable access and quality of affordable healthcare goods. But unfortunately, the rollout of this program is very slow. They just started this one program called Consulta, wherein Filipinos uh, can claim for a free basic laboratories for screening, which is limited to only to CBC, complete blood count, fasting blood sugar, X-ray. We also have pap smear for women, occult blood test,
Does it
or
even
oral
have
glucose
CRP and CAC?
tolerance test. So very limited, Tamsin. You cannot
Because I mean
depend.
that's not going to pick up. I just wanted to say for the audience, you know, as Coach Dave was alluding to as well, like the reason Dr. Suzette is calling this out is because none of those things are going to pick up early metabolic dysfunction. By the time your blood sugar, which is being tested for, is out of whack, by then you have been heading towards diabetes for 10 to 20 years already. That's what the literature shows. So if you want to pick up diabetes, pre-diabetes or any, metabolic dysfunction, you need to test the things that go wrong before your blood sugar goes wrong. Your body
Exactly.
has so many processes in place to keep blood sugar stable, because when blood sugar isn't kept within check, then you're diabetic, and we all know what happens when you're diabetic, right? You end up with heart disease, you end up with necrosis and all sorts of things, kidney failure, eyes, all sorts of things. So you don't want your blood sugar to be out of whack. So the body's gonna, for decades, fight that, and it does that using insulin. So at the very least, I mean, we really want to see insulin added, fasting insulin added to that, or even HbA1c, because what happens if you just have your fasting blood glucose is still fine, but your average blood glucose over 3 months is not fine. HbA1c would pick that up. Fasting blood glucose wouldn't. As you mentioned, Coach Dave, you know, your inflammation, we want to see inflammation as well, because that's always out of balance when it comes to metabolic health as well. And it also shows, you know, damage going on in the body to things like your blood vessels. So yeah, it's not sufficient. The sick care,
Exactly.
it's not
Here in the
sufficient.
Philippines, before doctors allow you to get uh, CRP and CAC tested, they'll be asking you a million questions first. And telling them that I just want to know if how inflamed I am when it comes to my heart and my general inflammation. They won't allow that here in the Philippines. So you will make do with triglycerides, HbA1c, insulin, and then just compute and assume.
Out of the
Anyway,
pocket, maybe, Tamsin, the doctors, private doctors can request that for you. And out of the pocket, the patient should shoulder it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, this test, they are not cheap in the
cheap.
Philippines. They are expensive because CAC is a special test.
Very expensive. Yeah.
Yes, and it's been done in only in the city, in big hospitals. Even CRP in provinces, it's not that common. HbA1c,
Okay.
it's okay, but again, it's expensive.
Yeah.
So most of the
So what
time,
So what do you guys, let's start with you, Dr. Suzette. What do you suggest then? Assuming people haven't got money to splash, certainly not on a CAC, which is also it's a coronary artery calcium scan. We actually go in and get a scan at a hospital and stuff. It's hectic. It's not like a blood test. And even the blood tests are often too expensive for people. We've mentioned the main ones you want, you know, you want insulin, you want HbA1c, you want maybe CRP, and you want triglycerides at the very least, you know, to check your metabolic health. But if you can't afford that, and all you can get is this fasting blood glucose because that's what's covered, are there other signs, Dr. Suzette, are there other signs that people can look at to figure out whether they're metabolically unwell and should consider a ketogenic or therapeutic carbohydrate restricted diet?
basically, I always tell to my patients and on social media, wherein I'm being seen under the doctor's desk, wherein I share the therapeutic carbohydrate restriction. They just need to use to measure their waist and their height ratio, waist to height ratio, which
Yes,
is the cheapest form. Wherein if
brilliant.
they see that their waistline is more than half of their height, they should do something. It's basically it would pick up metabolic uh, possibilities, metabolic derangement. So once they notice that their waistline is increasing in size, they could already start doing the therapeutic carbohydrate restriction. They could start removing the excess sugar from their diet. They could start removing the processed food, avoiding seed oils. So basically, once they see this one, they are not going to spend money. They are just going to measure their waistline. And it's very easy to do. Not you don't even need a weighing scale. You just need a tape measure. So it's
Yeah.
very economical, but the information upon knowing this value is very significant. It's very valuable.
Hmm. Totally. I couldn't agree more. I think you put that so well. I have nothing to add to that. That is really, really good. Coach Dave, what kind of signs are you seeing in your group as indicative? You mentioned the non-scale wins. What are the, okay, fertility, we know, okay. But what are some other non-scale wins that people are experiencing that indicate that their metabolic health is improving?
Um, I've basically heard a lot of I call it the common non-scale victories, such as,
Mm,
well, basically PCOS being
mm,
addressed, yeah, fertility issue and menstruation. Diabetes is very simple to, without lifting up our seats here, diabetes is very easy to address in LCIF. I've seen it 1,000 times. My wife is one of the thousands who basically reversed her diabetes, and she was suffering for about 3 years
mm,
with type 2 diabetes, and just kept on dosing herself with that wonder drug that we all know. And then the dosage just kept on increasing and increasing for 3 years, and nothing happened. And then just by doing LCIF for 3 months straight, she was able to reverse it. I vividly remember the doctor telling us, "Oh, once a diabetic, always a diabetic, huh? So you still take this wonder drug because once a diabetic, always a diabetic." And then I told the moment we left the office, I told my wife, don't you ever take that medicine again. Throw it away and just do, we called it keto before, right? So anyway, diabetes is very common. Hypertension is very common. People with the maintenance medicine, very common. And they actually told me before, you know what, coach, I just did what you said, what you told us in public. You were not teaching, you were just sharing. It's not an advice. I just followed it. You did not know. I just ate 12 eggs a day. And this one is hypertensive.
yeah.
Basically, paying 5,000 pesos every month for maintenance and being confined every quarter of about 25,000 pesos. And this is basically a senior, no, a lola, a grandmother already. So
Mm,
after doing 12 eggs every day, which I did not tell her to do, I just said eat until full. She was able to address years long of suffering with hypertension. And I've seen it all. But I want to see things like very, very special things. Like I've seen this. I don't know if you have seen this ever. A stroke patient, someone who suffered stroke, half dead. And then he is the dad of my moderator in Facebook. And then she told her dad, Dad, do LCIF, strict, carnivore, the way Coach Dave teaches us. Do carnivore, strict. Believe me, this guy was in a wheelchair, half dead, after doing LCIF for 3 months, strict LCIF, more on the carnivore side. He was doing push ups after 3 months. Push ups. Now,
wow.
I don't know what happened to him now because, again, I'm not a clinician. I do not really monitor
Yeah.
free coaches.
Mm,
So, but after 3 months, that guy, half dead guy, was already doing push-ups. Push-ups. Half dead guy in a wheelchair. These are things that I want to see actually more of. Diabetes, it's very common. It's very common in the community. You will see it every day. You will see it every day.
but I think what's really fascinating about this is that it goes to show that so much more is related to metabolic issues. than we thought, right? And that's where I think this metabolic psychiatry, and please, anyone who hasn't signed up for our metabolic psychiatry course that was launched recently, do so, because this is cutting edge space right now. Literature is coming in fast and furious onto, all the peer-reviewed journals in the space. We're seeing resolution of not just Alzheimer's and epilepsy. Okay, let's say epilepsy first and then Alzheimer's, which really, okay, those are, we're seeing glucose hypometabolism. The brain can't run on glucose. And so, okay, if you feed it ketones, it'll work. But it's not just those conditions. Now we're looking at schizophrenia. We're seeing bipolar resolve. We're seeing depression resolve. And we're starting to see cases of anxiety disorders resolving. Those are things that we never acknowledged as being metabolic. But if they aren't metabolic, then how on earth is keto, carnivore, intermittent fasting, or all of these, how are metabolic therapies like this working? They're working because we have messed up our physiology by eating an evolutionarily inappropriate diet for humans, right? You feed a lion chickens, as we look all around me here in South Africa. If you go onto the game farms, you'll see lions that are fed chickens get obese. And when you drive in there in your 4x4 safari vehicle, they're not interested. They can barely get up. Why? Because chickens are not an evolutionarily appropriate diet for lions to eat. They get fat and sick. And similarly, they should be chasing after buck, But similarly, humans are not supposed to eat hugely highly
Cereals.
refined. Yes, non-foods. We're not supposed to eat non-foods. We're supposed to eat what our ancestors ate before humans started getting sick. And I think the first recorded case of a heart attack was at the turn of the century. I think it was 1901, 1902 or something, if I remember correctly, the first citation of a heart attack in a book, if I remember correctly. And so it wasn't even a thing, right? It wasn't something that we thought humans have, and yet it's the biggest killer, not just in the Philippines, but if you go to anyone's list of what's killing the populations, heart disease is generally right at the top. And, as Dr. Suzette says, it's a metabolic disease. So we need to treat it with a metabolic treatment. And that is what this is.
Blamed on salt and fat,
Yes,
Fat.
saturated
salt
fat,
and
and
fat.
cholesterol.
Yes. Oh, talk about the
These
immune ones.
these top three.
Yes, the respiratory diseases that you were listing, Dr. Suzette, I was thinking to myself, there's a great article, I think it's by Professor Dr. Ramskov, if I remember correctly. And I read it during COVID, where he was talking about vitamin D, but also cholesterol as being protective when it comes to immune system function, and that
LDL.
people with higher cholesterol levels have lower admission to hospital when they get respiratory diseases and pneumonias, and that they also leave hospital quicker. They have much shorter hospital stays when they do go to hospital, the higher the cholesterol levels. Now, this is association data, but there's a lot of it. And so, cholesterol, saturated fat, and salt, as you say, Dr.
Don't
Coach
worry.
Dave,
The conventionals love to use associational studies as well.
they do. Yeah, an association, everybody does not prove causation.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think anyway, people have lots to go into, and they can go onto your Facebook page and join it and find out more about why salt, cholesterol, and saturated fat isn't what they should be worrying about. Why ultra processed foods they should be worrying about. If they need more guidance, they should be going to people like Dr. Suzette, because there are doctors out there who know what they're talking about when it comes to metabolic disease, type 2 diabetes, all these other conditions which actually are metabolic. Just find the right person to help you. Find the right group to help you. And that brings us to Nutrition Network. What we do is we train people. We train practitioners and coaches, as Coach Dave pointed out. We train lots of coaches now, very big into the coaches, but we train medical doctors, we train allied health professionals, registered dietitians such as myself, nurses, psychologists, pharmacists, as well as coaches on how to use keto, therapeutic carbohydrate restriction, intermittent fasting, carnivore, all its forms, to treat metabolic diseases. And in the case of coaches, they are not treating diseases with therapeutic carbohydrate restriction. They are promoting health with it. And we highly encourage working as a network or as a team, a multidisciplinary team, where we put doctors and coaches, psychologists when it comes to food addiction, as Dr. Suzette alluded to, dietitians such as myself, together in whatever array or order is required to best benefit the patient. And this is why Coach Dave has chosen, and we have chosen, to affiliate together. We love to affiliate with people who are making a difference, because that's what we're all about here. We really want to see people getting healthier. And so Coach Dave is helping more Filipinos to become educated, as he has, using Nutrition Network, so that more and more people can spread the right information, which is, the frustration, right, Coach Dave, that led you to this in the first place, was all this disparate, wrong information out there. So, he wants to help people through Nutrition Network to get the right information the way he has, and so that we can help more and more and more people, because clearly the 2.2 million on your page, is that how many it was? It's huge. It's apparently not enough to stop, the rise of obesity. Was it from 18 million to 27 million? Like, we got to do more. We got to do more. And that's what this collaboration is all about. So please head over to Coach Dave's Facebook page, head over to Nutrition Network, contact Dr. Suzette, and to get trained as a coach, to get trained as a medical practitioner, and to take your own health back as well. So I think let's leave this conversation with a take-home message, or something that you really want the audience to walk away with today. Let's start with Dr. Suzette. What would you like the listeners to walk away with today from this discussion?
I would like to tell to the audience that low carb nutrition is not a fad diet. That is the very first thing that I would like to tell them, because this is one of the statement that standard or conventional doctors has been always telling us. A ketogenic diet is a fad diet. Low carb diet is a fad diet. It is very dangerous. But it's not a fad diet. It's not dangerous. And we have a lot of science researches to back it up. And we have a lot of people with real stories to tell that their conditions have been healed, and they are helped with the low carb restriction therapy. But this therapeutic carbohydrate restriction therapy should be done properly. So for those people out there who wants to become well, to have their power or for their health, should try to do the therapeutic carbohydrate restriction. Join on the Facebook page. There are a lot of them that are saying the true facts, true informations. We open up the doctor's desk. We are teaching there what is low carb nutrition. Me, together with me, is Dr. Fee, who is also a low carb health practitioner, and she is also a Nutrition Network student. So we've been teaching people about what is the mechanism of the disease, and how therapeutic carbohydrate restriction is helping people, and how to heal them. We also have one Facebook page, which is the Pinoy Carnivore Healing Lifestyle Group, wherein if you think you are not, if low carb diet is not enough, so you could do the carnivore healing. So we have that group. The group of Coach Dave is still there. The low carb and intermittent fasting group, which is the largest one, it's still there. He's also sharing informations, valuable informations there, alongside with his moderators and coaches. So this Facebook pages will help you to regain your health. And we are not Dave and me, we are not fond of being seen on TikTok, dancing on the social media to entice viewers. We are not those types of people. We want to educate people. Talking on the social media more than 1 hour just to educate and to answer all of your queries regarding therapeutic carbohydrate restriction, and not just making a show inside in front of the social media. So I know Dave will add more into it, but you can find me on my page, my low carb MD page, Facebook page, and Doctor's Desk. It's still there. We are doing live every Tuesdays in our local language in Tagalog, so we can reach more people.
Thank you, Dr. Suzette. Thank you so much for your hard work and for all your advocacy and changing the health of Filipinos. Thank you. All right, Coach Dave, you're up. What do you want people to take home from this discussion today?
Well, again, two things. I've been saying this over and over. I'm almost like a broken record. First off, do not wait for while doctors are the supposedly doctors and dietitians are supposedly the authorities when it comes to health and wellness, supposedly, but it's not the case most of the time. Supposedly, while they are, do not wait for them to become educated. Because as I always say, it's very hard to wake up people who are pretending to be asleep. It's very hard to wake up people who are pretending to be asleep. You will never wake them up. So do not wait until they wake up. This is the reason why there is Nutrition Network. Before Nutrition Network, it was just me teaching you guys. And you were asking me, what's your credibility? What are your credentials? Now, Nutrition Network is here to give you all of the information that you need. Of course, you just have to pay something. But the point is, if you want to learn, there are a lot of information that you could learn from Nutrition Network. And first off, the first two trainings that we are going to offer here in the Philippines, which is going to be somehow an accreditation in my membership, in my coaching membership. So once I accredit coaches soon, it's going to be the prerequisites. So the first two trainings that the Nutrition Network offered, you can basically take the advisors training and then the food addiction training. So these are two very important trainings that Nutrition Network offers primarily for Filipinos. So do not wait for doctors and dietitians, your doctors and dietitians to learn, because I'm already doing everything that I can to inspire them and encourage them. I even bought 5 ketogenic books, which I'm going to give out to the Office of the President, to the Senate, to the Congress, to DOH or the Department of Health, and to a private obesity organization who has been uh, fighting obesity since the 1980s here in the Philippines. So do not wait for your doctors. Second, and I'm not even going to file for president anymore. I'm not even going to file for any office at the moment because I'm so sick and tired of trying to help everyone, carry everyone. But please, please be vocal. Do not be apolitical. If the government decides to go against LCIF, the way of eating, the community, we're all dead. If they say if they say there's an African swine flu virus now, we have to sequester all of the pigs. If there is a bird flu now in America, in USA, there's bird flu, and you do not even contest, you do not even inquire. People are they are now forcing us to eat fake meat, the burgers, the fake burgers. They're forcing us to eat crickets, insects in lieu of meat. So please, please do not be apolitical. Do not be apolitical. Speak up. So these are the two main things that I want to share.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for being here today, for making your voice heard, because you both have such important things to share with the community. And we at Nutrition Network are so privileged and honored to be able to work with both of you and so many other practitioners and coaches out there and allied health professionals who are awake and who do follow the evidence and the research. And the more people we can have trained and helping people, the more health we're going to bring to our community, to our populations, but most importantly, to your mother, to your father, to your grandparents, to your sisters, to your brothers, to your cousins, to your aunts, to your uncles, to your children. And, you know, if we can disseminate this information widely and get people healthy again, how much more wonderful would life be? So thank you both, and we look forward to more work in the Philippines, and with both of you. Over and out
Thank you.
from us.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Tamzin.
Thank you.